Hello friends. So this is a procedure series. So I'll be just showing a practical procedure of pigtail insertion, which is commonly done in ICU. So I need to acknowledge my colleague, Dr. Raghavendra Kotal, who has shot this video and who has been helpful in creating this video. So pigtail insertions are fairly common in ICU, and it is important and prudent for us to understand the steps in the procedures. So I think another one important thing is when we are administering local or putting a pigtail or intercostal drain, it is important to understand there is this intercostal bundle that lies just below these ribs. And these are the bundles which have vessels in them, and so it is best to avoid the lower end of the rib. And when we are administering local or putting a catheter, it is good to directed just above the rib where the intercostal bundles we could possibly avoid and causing trauma and further bleeds. So this is a pictorial representation as to the pigtail sitting in the pleural effusion and connected to the underwater seal drain. The pigtail, the reason it is called as pigtail is the tip looks like the tail of the pig, and as you see, it is a curled one. And this is to ensure that the tube doesn't get dislodged easily, but very often, one of the complication of these pigtails are the tube dislodgements that tend to happen. And you have this sheath which is present. There are various types of pigtails. So the one from the cook is comes with the introducer needle, so that we could straighten the pigtail and insert it. And there are the nephrostomy sort of a pigtails that are available with an outer sheath that comes to stabilize this pigtail, the tip of the curled one, so that it can be easily introduced. Otherwise, it is impossible to push in the curled tip into the intercostal space. So the way we straighten is there is a sheath outside which is pushed in the distal end so that the curled end of the pigtail is straightened and the passing of the pigtail becomes easier. So just few things to remember. The intercostal space is around 9 millimeters on average. And the difference between the intercostal drain that we conventionally put for thick pleural effusions are much larger compared to the pigtail. So it is important for all the trainees to just bear in mind the size of the intercostal drain is close to about 9 millimeters. So it just about fits into the intercostal space. So if we are using a underwater seal drain or intercostal drain of 28 size, it is around 9.3 millimeters. And if you're using 32, it is around 10.6 millimeters. So which means the risk of causing injury or bleeding due to injury to the intercostal bundle that lies at the lower end of the rib can be much higher compared to the pigtail, as opposed to the pigtail, which are available as 10 French, 12 French, and 14 French. So it is approximately around 4 millimeters. So the size is much smaller, and that's why the risk of tissue injury and the bleeding and other complications may be much lesser. So I'll just take you through the video. The main complication, as I said, is the dislodgement. And these pigtails are typically suited for draining thin fluids or transudates due to, say, heart failure or nephrotic syndrome or chronic kidney disease or liver failure or cirrhosis of liver. So any of these conditions, pigtails may be suitable, but they are not advocated for any empyema or any pus collection or pneumothorax. Small pneumothorax, it is suggested, albeit mostly in pneumothorax, we tend to put a smaller size underwater seal drain. So it is mainly for the thin fluids. So I'll just take you through the video, have a look, and I will just be interspersing in between. So these are the components of the pigtail insertion, and this procedure we did it in our ICU for this patient who had a, as you see, massive left pleural effusion. So, and it is prudent and it's very important in this day and age to do any of these procedures under ultrasound guidance. As you see, we have done an ultrasound. You see this lung here, you see a pleural fluid, and you see a diaphragm, and you see our team draping and cleaning the surface, which is the standard, and it has to be done under strict aseptic precautions with cap, mask, goggles, gown, as you see here. And once it is nicely sterilized, draped, so the local is administered. into the skin and into the subcutaneous space and to the muscle plane. And I have to re-emphasize these procedures have to be done under ultrasound. There have been medical legal implications in our own community of having done this procedure not under ultrasound and and punitive action being taken. So for all the trainees, please do these procedures only under ultrasound guidance. Gone are the days where when I was a PG, we used to do this blindly, but gone are those days. Right now, all procedures, invasive procedures, desirably, preferably, mandatorily, have to be done under ultrasound guidance. And so this is the set. So you would keep a central venous set, or so that's the outer sheath I said, which is pushed. So the green one is the pigtail. So the outer sheath is pushed to straighten the curled distal tip of the pigtail. So that is what our team is showing you. So it's around 8 minutes video, so it won't take long. So that is the introducer needle. So as you see, local administration is given, and you see under ultrasound guidance, my team is putting the needle into the pleural space. And as you would see, you would see the pleural fluid coming out. So you see the nice thin pleural fluid being aspirated. You will see the pleural fluid dripping there. So once it is confirmed the needle is in the pleural space with the fluid draining out, so the guide wire is inserted. And most of the time, the pigtail or the intercostal drain is preferably done in the axillary region, because once you go more posterior, so you would have more muscle pain. So this is a very important step. You need to make a nice nick with the 11 size blade. And this nick has to be deep, because very often the last thing we would want is for the pigtail to get kinked when you are putting the dilators, because that is something we wouldn't want. The procedure becomes messy, and then you would have a lot of difficulty in negotiating the pigtail. And as you see, there are serial dilators put in, and it is always good to stretch the skin so that the guide wire is not kinked. And you would see it may be not very easy, because there is a lot of pushing that needs to be done to negotiate the dilator along the guide wire. It is not very easy, especially when there is a thick chest wall. The reason we put in the intercostal space is the muscle layers are much thinner. Obviously, you wouldn't go to anterior because of the pectoral muscles that comes and the breast tissue that comes. And you wouldn't go to posterior because your scapular muscles come. So if there is difficulty in passing dilator, which is not very uncommon, you can use a mosquito forceps and try to dilate a little bit. This may be needed in some cases, especially in obese individuals, where it may not be very easy to pass these dilators easily, and you need to really stretch the skin and keep the guide wire still. The last thing, as I'm reiterating, is we wouldn't want the kinking of the guide wire to happen, because once the guide wire kinks, it becomes little difficult to pass this dilators, the serial dilators. As you see, the dilator is passed in with obviously little resistance, and they have dilated, and there has been a little thinking in this procedure. So I keep telling our team that it is very important that we give a good nick with the 11 size blade so that a nice pathway is created, and the skin has to be stretched, and all efforts should be taken to ensure that guide wire is not kinked, because if it kinks, I'm telling you, it can be a very messy procedure. It may be very hard to pass even the pigtail and the dilator and so on and so forth. So this is a second serial dilator that is passed, the bigger one. So we need to start from the smaller dilator and then increase with the, so usually you would have 2 to 3 dilators. So I always suggest that all 3 dilators are used before the pigtail. You see, this is the third dilator that our team is putting in. First started with the smallest, then the medium one, and now the biggest dilator which is going in to create a good pathway for the pigtail to go in easily. Once the first 2 dilators, always the challenge is to pass the first dilator. After the first dilator, the subsequent dilators fairly become easier. So now all the 3 serial dilators are passed. Now, as you see, the pigtail is being passed. So the pigtail, the green one is the pigtail, as you see, and this is the curl tip is straightened with the sheath above, and with the sheath, so this would be pushed in, and there would be a guide wire which will be pulled out. So as you see, the pigtail is being put in. It is going in easily, as you see. So once it is done, the guide wire is pulled out. Along with, there is a inner sort of a catheter that is pulled out, and the pigtail, the outer sheath with the curl tip remains inside. As you see, the guide wire with the inner sort of a sheath is pulled out. So the outer pigtail is securely kept inside, and the pigtail is connected to the drainage tube, which is connected to the underwater seal. So there is a fluid level to prevent the air going in, but in pigtail you could argue it's a small tube, so it is seldom we would have air gravitating above. So it is connected to the underwater seal one, so there is a water kept inside so that the air doesn't go in. And as you see, the pleural fluid is nicely draining. So it's a simple procedure. Obviously, all the tick boxes have to be done. So one has to do the coagulation profile, one has to do the platelet count, and one has to take a signed consent. So we have taken a signed consent from this patient that we are doing a video recording. So all this has to be mandatorily done. So once the pigtail is put in place, as I said, the commonest complication of pigtail is the dislodgement. So I always re-emphasize a good purse string suture has to be put in to secure the pigtail so that it doesn't get dislodged. So as you see, the purse string is being put in, and it will be put around the tube, and a figure of 8 knot. So this is something which every trainee has to learn. A figure of 8 knot has to be put with a purse string suture, and then an anchor stitch has to be put. Desirably, always suggest an anchor stitch is put so that the pigtail doesn't get dislodged easily. So as you see, the catheter is being pulled, and it is not coming out easily. So which means to say it is very securely put in, and the dislodgement would be much lesser. So now the procedure is completed, and that is our team. So, and then most important, you have to get an X-ray after that. You would see the pigtail nicely sitting, and you saw the pleural effusion. It is of the same patient where the pleural fluid is fully drained, and you see the pigtail in place. And this is often done, friends. You wouldn't put this pigtail for anyone and everyone who has a pleural effusion due to, say, chronic kidney disease or cirrhosis of liver, or due to heart failure or any other reason. Mainly we would put in for a patient who is overtly distressed, at least in ICU, to relieve the distress, to relieve the work of breathing. And any pleural effusion, we don't jump around and put a pigtail. So that is something each one of you should keep in mind. It is to be done in patients who are in respiratory distress or who are still needing oxygen requirement, or to reduce the work of breathing, to help you wean from the ventilator, so on and so forth. So thank you all. So hope it was useful. I have covered some of the procedure videos. I tried to cover most of the videos in ICU. So thank you one and all.